All right, guys, for our entertainment this week, we're going to take a look at a short film called American Sikh. It's been a while since we've done anything related to Sikhism or, that faith. So, this should be interesting. Well, guys, we won't keep you waiting. Let's get right into it. It's interesting.
I was 12 years old. The Prime Minister was assassinated by two of her own bodyguards. The men wore turbans, just like me. My family and I practice a religion called Sikhism. In our faith, all men and even some women wear a turban. It symbolizes our belief that all people are created equal. But after that assassination, our turbans made us targets. Angry mobs hunted and murdered thousands of Sikhs. No part of me felt Indian anymore. I was born in Washington, D.C., the first American citizen in my family. My parents raised me and my brother there while my dad was working at the Indian Embassy. But after a few years, my parents missed their community, so they decided to pack up and move us to India. As a teenager, I dreamt of being back in America and immersed myself in American culture. As soon as I turned 18, I was on the next plane back. My name is Vishavjit Singh, and I am an American Sikh. Finally, I was home. It was beautiful. But I didn't receive the warm welcome I was expecting. I never felt so alone. I decided to do what no one in my family had ever done. When my father found out, he refused to speak to anyone for weeks. Cutting my hair and abandoning my turban meant I was no longer Sikh. But fitting in presented a new challenge. I didn't know who I was anymore. I began trying different identities, religions. None felt quite right. After 10 years of searching, I had a dream one morning. My grandfather came to me with the 6 scriptures. The opening words describe a timeless and formless energy that binds all living beings. The purpose of the Sikh faith is to connect to that energy. And for the first time, I felt it. I felt a new desire to stand out as myself rather than blend in as no one. But being myself was about to get a lot more difficult.
So far, beautiful animation. It's been really good watching this.
Yeah.
The first thing I was kind of thinking back, like if you decide to go back to the faith after, can you return? That's got to be tough. I know there are a lot of religions, like you hear all the time about Christians that kind of like leave the faith and then they go off for 10 years and they come back, kind of prodigal son type of stuff. I'm sure there is.
One of the things that used to be said is a couple of things like you never really were unsaved.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? And like only somebody that never comes back. And then the other way, if they never come back, then they never really were saved or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Those type of things I just said. Because I remember there was some paranoia growing up that you could lose your salvation somehow. It'd be
Yeah.
like a paranoia that you could actually lose it.
Yeah, I hate this idea of like you walking away from something to go find yourself, and then people put like stipulations of their love on you. They're like, well, if you leave, then you're not welcome here. You know, if you leave, if you make a choice, you draw a line in the sand that you're not this, then you know we're going to use that against you to say you're no longer allowed to come back, or you're outside of the family now. You know, that's a huge pressure. Huge pressure.
Yes, and that colors shades. I was thinking about this because I kind of allowed myself to be immersed in this animation as we were watching it, and I was like, yeah, the animation style is cool. But then I was looking at the story and I was like allowing myself, and I started to empathize with the character.
Yeah.
Like I've never really been in that exact situation. I haven't. But I immersed myself enough into it that I had some empathy, and I was like, I bet you there's a lot of people that could resonate with this.
Oh yeah.
You know, like a lot of people that come to Canada, America, a different country, seeking a new life. They even love the country, and then they're alienated, or join a new school, or join a new group, or join a new job, or get into a new situation, and they're kind of isolated and alienated just because it's, you know, they don't know all the same. They don't know everything to anticipate going into it, the culture that they're going into. And I imagine there's a lot of people that would resonate to that, but I also imagine there's probably a lot of people that would be... People have walls up for different reasons. I actually find some people are like not willing to allow themselves to empathize sometimes. You know what I mean? Where it's like you'll show something to them being like, you see the humanity in this, and they'll be like, no, like, well, I still think what I think is right. But I think
because it's dangerous to show empathy, because
Right.
if they show empathy, it might, you know, be counterintuitive to things they've decided to believe.
they're balancing it against some other thing that they believe, or some maybe a natural way that they are. They're like, I'm just not naturally like that.
Yeah.
And maybe they never will be different. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that I have a meta perspective on this. I recognize both the capacity for this to make somebody empathize and the capacity for somebody to reject it.
Yeah.
And so there are more than one way of looking at it. And then there's a meta perspective. And then there's a perspective that like sees more than one perspective at once.
Yeah.
Compound perspective.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just reject something or adopt something. You don't have to see this and be like, things need to change immediately.
Yeah.
And you don't need to see it and reject it and be like, nah, you know, you don't have to be so picking of one perspective.
Yeah.
You can
Sometimes
develop,
seeing it and appreciating it and letting it marinate over time and turn into something.
you can develop what I call a compound perspective.
Yeah.
So watch it with those eyes, maybe.
They didn't know at that time.
Within hours, there was news of Sikhs being attacked. I don't feel at home anymore. I used to be seen as an outsider, but now people see me as a villain. I got a strange idea. If I'm going to stand out, I want people to see me, not as an outsider, but as I am, is Sikh and an American. For the first time, I became Sikh Captain America. At first, I was nervous that I might get attacked. Just being out of the house felt risky, and here I was, dressed in a costume, drawing even more attention to myself. But then something incredible happened. Hey, it's Captain America! It's Captain America! Whoa! People are beginning to follow me. People are taking photos without even asking me. And then people start coming up and hugging me. That was weird. I don't get hugged by strangers. I don't get hugged by people I know that much. For the first time in my life, I saw almost everyone looking at me as if I was the coolest thing in the world. I was the coolest person in the world. I was the most American guy that day in New York. And it turned out to be one of the most amazing days of my life. The next day, I get called Osama bin Laden again. But I realized I might be onto something with this superhero alter ego. I can't teach everyone about Sikhism, and I can't tell every person my story. But when you see Sikh Captain America, it stays with you. The next time you see someone who looks a little different, I hope this image comes to mind. And instead of seeing an outsider, you see that each of us, in our own way, is a superhero.
Very moving, enough to give you, goosebumps.
Yeah,
very moving.
I didn't know it was going there, but I like where it went. It's kind of interesting. Do you think part of it was the fact that he found something that could make his environment around him feel more comfortable while still, keep holding on to his traditional beliefs and holding on?
I think that unfortunately sometimes, you could sit there and go, genius, or it's so simple in its eloquency of how it works. But the reality is that oftentimes pressure all of a sudden causes...
diamonds?
And you could either force yourself to be... this is just food for thought, If what I've found is the more luxury-filled my life is, the easier it is. Creativity kind of starts to take a back seat. Yeah. But if you put yourself in pressurized situations, all of a sudden you become creative. You know what I mean? He's driving around and he's getting hated like crazy. It's like, I have to I'm going to dress up because otherwise nobody would go to the park dressed up like that unless they felt compelled for some reason. Not anybody. There's people who go to Comic-Con and stuff. But he went out in public.
Yeah.
That. I feel like it came from a place of pressure. And rather than being like, well, then bullying's good. Well, then being mean to people's good because it caused that. That's not the point I'm saying. I'm just making a point about pressure. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of origin stories come from unfortunate beginnings, but he bridged the gap with this sick Captain America thing.
Yeah.
Now, can you do that without it being heartbreaking? Could you maybe if you know what I mean? I'm just trying to cover all the bases here. I'm trying to. Could
he have gotten to where he was without all the terrible stuff that happened to him?
No, I'm just making a side note about that for people that are like, well, how would I tap into my own creativity to cover things? Well, how much pressure are you experiencing?
Yeah.
Pressure creates diamonds. Back to the actual thing at hand.
Yeah.
I just think that he was brave. I think that, he it was also done out of love. Like, he covered very early on that he actually loved America.
Yeah.
He didn't say, like, screw this, I'm going to go back home and badmouth Americans. Yeah. His love for America made him be creative. He was like, well, then I'm going to drape myself in America and throw myself to the wolves. And thank God, in the end, everybody was like, okay. You know, but it also has to do with, look at what happened. You know, when you blend certain things, then people can understand it. You know? People were able to accept him because he was draped in something that's familiar to them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And so
that's a sign for all of us, kind of like, if there is something uncomfortable, if you feel like the people around you are uneasy, it's maybe like a call, like, how could I make it so they didn't feel so uneasy? It taps into that creative aspect that you're talking about. You know, and then, you know, you can look within yourself to find, you know, that thing that, you know, brings a smile to someone else's face.
Yeah. Let's not tarnish it too much with our opinions. That was great, and applause from me to that guy.
And me too. I thought, good job. Good job. All right, guys, hopefully you liked our reaction on this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone until next time,
stay spiritual.